Story now. Statistics South Africa has extended Census 2022 to the 20th of March. This is due to logistical issues. Fieldworkers have been hard at work over the last 3 weeks trying to collect information on the country's population. You remember this is done every 10 years. Let's get an update now from Risenga Maluleke. He's the Statistician-General from Statistics SA. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Maluleke. Now, first of all, how does this now impact on Census 2022, a very important because of COVID-19 especially as well?
Firstly, let us admit, Masifo, that a census always involves operations in such a way that you cannot fully predict until you are on the ground. But COVID-19 itself has had a major impact, one, on our preparations, even on our fieldwork operations, in such a way that, one, we could not test fully what we would deploy in field because there was non-contact with members of the public. And indeed, even as we are now, other logistical problems, amongst others, the access or acquisition of vehicles which are not there for our field staff to use when they are in the field. And indeed, in some parts of the country, to get enough field workers to go in the field. So it's for that reason that we have extended the field work up to the 20th of March. And I'm pleased to say that on the ground now, we have actually had more than 3 million respondents, with the hope that we will be able to cover the others. So I would like to encourage members of the public and whoever finds themselves within the borders of South Africa to stand up and be counted.
So does it look like you are going to meet this extended deadline?
Certainly. What we do is we are looking at our production volumes per day, and indeed those production volumes assist us to project, and which we have done in the last few days. That is why we informed members of the public through media houses like yourselves that we are extending until the 20th of March.
Just for people to understand, those viewers who are watching, please just explain the importance of census and why it's done every 10 years.
Firstly, no nation can be able to plan better without knowing where its citizens live and play. And in this regard, our country needs to build new schools in the future, hospitals, facilities for services. And on the basis of that, we need to know how many people are as of now. And indeed, it helps us as Statistician to come up with mid-year estimates every year, so that South Africa can be able to plan better for people within its borders.
So, Mr. Maluleke, there are those within the LGBTQI plus community who say they're concerned about some of the questions in there. As you'd know, some of them don't want to say, they don't want to say that they are a he or a she. What's your reaction to that? Maybe it's time for us to change our questionnaire?
Certainly, that is a matter. The questionnaire is not changed as an ongoing thing while in the middle of the census, because it goes through a battery of stages through which it is tested and in which it is accepted between Statistician SA and our independent body that represents members of the public, the Statistics Council. And indeed, it is deployed to the field. So one of the things is that in this census, we are not asking the gender question. We are asking the sex question, as in male, female, which is mandatory in line with the United Nations guidelines on censuses. However, in the future and following engagements with sections of the society, especially on this issue of the gender question, we would be able to include it even in our sample surveys, because there are other meetings that they will be continuing, not led by ourselves, but led by the Department of Home Affairs. And certainly this will find resonance. But as of now, I would like to encourage them or any other member of the society who finds themselves within the borders of South Africa to raise their hand and be counted.
Before I let you go, Mr. Maluleke, there's also the issue of rural areas. This has been a problem before. Are you getting any assistance, at least from government, in terms of the roads that are making it impossible for those on the ground to get to community members? I mean, these communities, especially in rural areas, usually cannot use the internet like you've requested, because maybe they don't even have a connection to the internet. So are you getting any assistance from government in terms of fixing these roads so that you can actually access some of these areas?
Firstly, is that our online registration has closed. So we are only encouraging those members of the public who have registered to be enumerated remotely, either by themselves on the web or by telephone, to make themselves available. But we are no longer open for online registration as of now, because we had lower numbers of registrations. We had about 445,000 households out of 17 million households that we would have expected to register, albeit the fact that we had encouraged everyone to register from around December. Now, in terms of government assisting us with making the roads accessible to members of the public in the rural areas, we are supposed to be independent. One of the things is this census helps South Africans to understand what kind of services are there, and indeed to also be a sense of engagement between those who are elected into office and those who elect them, members of the public, in terms of holding each other accountable. And we must do it as independent as possible. So it is our responsibility as Stats SA to try by all means to reach out to every rural area on our own, independent of government involvement at this point in time. Having said so, let me mention that we are reaching out to every corner in the country, the farming communities, informal settlements, rural communities, and we are trying by all means to hire people from within those communities so that they can be able to talk to everyone in their neighborhood. Where we are not able to have people in that neighborhood, including in townships, we will have people from neighboring settlements who will assist us in reaching out so that we can account and indeed count everyone who is within the borders of South Africa.